April 19, 2026, 5:55 in the morning, Shreveport, Louisiana. Khedarrion Pugh is on the roof of a house on West 79th Street. Below her, inside the home she shares with her sister and their children, she can hear gunshots. She pulls out her phone and calls a family member. Her voice is barely recognizable. She says 5 words: "He done shot the kids, he killed the kids." She is not calling 911, she is calling family. Because the man with the gun is her brother-in-law. By the time police arrive 6 minutes later, 8 children are dead inside the house. 7 of them are his, 1 is their cousin, the youngest is 3, the oldest is 11, 2 women have been shot, 1 of them is his wife, the other is his ex-wife, and the man responsible is already gone, driving a stolen car toward Bossier City with a rifle-style pistol on the seat beside him. This is the 2026 Shreveport shooting. The deadliest mass shooting in America in more than 2 years. 8 children killed by their own father in a span of minutes. But here is what makes this case different from other mass shootings. The people closest to Shamar Elkins knew exactly what he was capable of. They had known for years. They had reported it. They had hospitalized him for it. And still, on Easter Sunday, 13 days before the massacre, he posted a photograph with all 7 of his children and wrote, "Happy Easter, had a wonderful time at church, for the first time with all my kids, what a blessed day." Central mystery is not why a father would kill his children. It is how a man who warned his family for years that he would do exactly this, a man who attempted suicide 2 months earlier, who was hospitalized for dark thoughts, who had a felony weapons conviction, was able to walk into 2 houses on a Sunday morning and make good on his promise, while every system that should have intercepted him remained unaware he was a threat. To understand how this happened, we need to separate what is known from what is assumed. What is known: Shamar Elkins was 31 years old. He was born December 7, 1994. He served in the Louisiana Army National Guard from 2013 to 2020 as a signal systems specialist and fire support specialist. He was never deployed. He left the service as a private. At the time of the shooting, he worked for United Parcel Service. What is also known: in 2019, Elkins was arrested for illegal use of weapons and carrying a firearm on school property. According to a police report, he admitted to firing 5 rounds at a car as it drove away from him near Caddo Magnet High School while children were playing outside. He pleaded guilty to the weapons charge. The school property charge was dismissed. He received 18 months of probation. What is known about his mental state? In February 2026, 2 months before the shooting, Elkins attempted to kill himself. He was hospitalized for a week and a half at a Veterans Affairs facility for a mental health evaluation, then released. On April 5, 2026, 14 days before the shooting, he called his biological mother and told his stepfather he was having dark thoughts, including suicide. He ended the call by saying, "Some people don't come back from their demons," and what is known about his intentions. In 2023, when his wife Shaneiqua Pugh told him she was considering leaving and taking the children, Elkins told her, "I'll kill you, my kids, and myself." The person who heard this was Betty Walker, the family friend who raised him. So the mystery is not a lack of warning signs. The mystery is the gap between what his family knew and what any institution was able to act upon. Because when Shreveport police were asked after the shooting whether they had prior knowledge of domestic violence issues involving Elkins, their answer was direct: they were not aware of any. The Caddo Parish Coroner's Office identified the 8 children killed. Jayla Elkins was 3, Shayla Elkins was 5, Kayla Pugh was 6, Layla Pugh was 7, Braylon Snow was 5, Khedarrion Snow was 6. Markaydon Pugh was 10, Sariahh Snow was 11. 7 of the 8 were fathered by Elkins. Markaydon Pugh was the exception. He was the 10-year-old son of Elkins's brother-in-law. He was sleeping over. The mothers were Shaneiqua Pugh, Elkins's wife, and the mother of 4 of the children, and Christina Snow, his ex-wife and the mother of 3. Both were shot. Shaneiqua was shot in the face. Christina was shot 9 times. Both survived. Khedarrion Pugh, Shaneiqua's sister, was in the house with her 12-year-old daughter and 10-year-old son. When the shooting started, Khedarrion and her daughter jumped from the roof. The daughter suffered scratches. Khedarrion broke bones. Her son Markaydon did not make it off the roof. He was shot there. A 13-year-old boy, one of the children in the house, also jumped from the roof. He broke bones but survived. These are the facts of who lived and who died. What the facts do not explain is how a house with this many people inside, 9 residents according to the 5:59 a.m. dispatch call, became a scene where a father could shoot his own children while 2 mothers and 2 other children were still inside, awake or asleep, trying to escape. Let's examine what was known before April 19th, and by whom. In 2016, Elkins was convicted of driving while intoxicated. In 2019, he fired 5 rounds at a car near a high school while children were outside. He pleaded guilty and received probation. Under Louisiana law, a person convicted of illegal use of a weapon is banned from possessing a firearm for at least 10 years. In 2023, Betty Walker, the woman who raised him, heard him threaten to kill his wife, his children, and himself if they tried to leave. In February 2026, he attempted suicide and was hospitalized at a VA facility for roughly 10 days. On April 5, 2026, he told his stepfather he was having dark thoughts and made the comment about not coming back from demons. On April 17, 2026, 2 days before the shooting, he posted photos to Facebook showing him with his children. On Easter Sunday, April 6, he posted the group photo at church with the caption about what a blessed day it was. Here is the critical point. Every one of these facts existed in isolation. The criminal justice system had his 2019 conviction. The VA had his suicide attempt. His family had his threats. His social media had his photographs. But there is no public evidence that any of these systems communicated with each other. No database connected the probationary felon with the suicidal veteran, with the father making death threats to his family. And here is a fact that requires careful interpretation. On March 24, 2026, 26 days before the shooting, the Shreveport City Council voted to withdraw from a partnership with the Caddo Parish Sheriff's Office to operate a domestic violence resource center at a new police substation. What this means is a matter of dispute. The Caddo Parish Sheriff's Office launched its own domestic violence unit on April 13, 2026, 6 days before the shooting. Whether the withdrawal of the city partnership delayed, prevented, or had no effect on any intervention in this specific case is unknown. What is known is that when police were asked after the shooting about prior domestic violence reports involving Elkins, they said there were none. The family knew. The systems did not. Now the exact sequence of April 19, 2026. The following times come from the official timeline released by the Shreveport Police Department on April 23, 2026, 5:55 a.m. The first 911 call. Khedarrion Pugh is on the roof of the West 79th Street house. She tells dispatch that the suspect is inside, that a male has been shot, that approximately 9 people live there, that the suspect is Shamar Elkins. That he has shot everyone inside. 5:58 a.m. Dispatch learns the suspect is a relative of the caller. 6:00 a.m. Khedarrion advises that she and her children have fled from the roof and are in the backyard. 6:01 a.m. Officers arrive at West 79th Street. 6:03 a.m. Officers make contact with Khedarrion. 6:07 a.m. A second call comes in from the 500 block of Harrison Street. Christina Snow reports that her boyfriend has shot her in the face. She says he has taken her 3 children. Police later note that those 3 children were already deceased at the West 79th Street residence. 6:08 a.m. Christina Snow identifies the suspect as Shamar Elkins. 6:10 a.m. Dispatch links the 2 incidents. 6:15 a.m. Officers learn that before fleeing, Elkins carjacked a red Kia Sportage at gunpoint at the intersection of West 79th Street and Linwood Avenue. 6:17 a.m. Traffic units spot the vehicle southbound on Interstate 49. 6:18 a.m. Officers cross the Red River Bridge into Bossier City. 6:20 a.m. Officers receive information that the children taken from Harrison Street may be inside the fleeing vehicle. 6:29 a.m. Officers make contact with the suspect. Shots are fired. 6:30 a.m. Contact is confirmed in the 400 block of Brompton Lane. 6:40 a.m. The suspect's vehicle is empty. No children are inside. 7:03 a.m. Shamar Elkins is pronounced dead at the scene. 7:14 a.m. Shreveport police request that Louisiana State Police investigate the officer-involved shooting. Here is what remains unresolved about this timeline. Police initially stated that officers discharged their weapons and neutralized the suspect. but a preliminary autopsy attributed Elkins's death to a self-inflicted gunshot wound. These accounts are not mutually exclusive, both could be true, but the discrepancy has not been publicly resolved. What is known is that Elkins had a rifle-style pistol when police confronted him. 2 days after the shooting, on April 21, 2026, federal prosecutors announced the arrest of a second man. His name is Charles Ford. He is 56 years old. He is a convicted felon. And he is the reason Shamar Elkins had a weapon. Here is how the gun was traced. The ATF and Shreveport police conducted a firearms trace on the rifle Elkins used. When they contacted the original purchaser, she identified Ford as the person she had given the weapon to while she was in the hospital. Ford initially lied to federal agents. He claimed he never had the gun. Later, he admitted he had kept it under the seat of his truck. He said he noticed it missing around early March 2026. He believed Elkins had stolen it because Elkins was the only person who rode in that truck with him. Ford confronted Elkins about the missing weapon. According to a court affidavit, Elkins became offensive. Ford dropped the issue, let that sit for a moment. A convicted felon, Ford had a 2000 simple robbery conviction and a 2011 domestic abuse battery conviction, illegally possessed a rifle. He suspected a man with a felony weapons record had stolen it from his truck. He confronted that man. When the man became offensive, Ford let it go. And 6 weeks later, that same weapon was used to execute 8 children. Ford was charged with felon in possession of a firearm and making false statements to federal agents. He faces up to 15 years on the possession charge and 5 years on the false statement charge. United States Attorney Zachary Kayla stated, "Elkins' death means that our community will never see him face justice. Our hope is that holding the person whose gun Elkins used to perpetrate the crime accountable will give some small bit of solace." Weapon was a Mossberg 715P, a rifle-style pistol. Under Louisiana law, Elkins should not have been able to touch a firearm for at least 10 years following his 2019 conviction. He was not legally prohibited from being around them. He was prohibited from possessing them. Yet in early March 2026, he allegedly stole a rifle from a truck. In mid-April, he used it to kill 8 children and shoot 2 women. And during the final confrontation in Bossier City, he had that same rifle-style pistol with him. The ATF is investigating the firearms chain of custody. The FBI has offered assistance. What the firearm trace reveals is not just a failure of background checks. It reveals a different kind of gap. The original purchaser gave the weapon to Ford while hospitalized. Ford, a felon, kept it under a truck seat. When it went missing, he did not report it to police. He confronted the suspected thief privately, backed down when the conversation became heated, and allowed the weapon to remain in circulation. This is not a straw purchase in the traditional sense. It is something more diffuse and harder to intercept, a weapon moving through informal networks, from a lawful owner to a felon to an alleged thief, with no point of contact with any regulatory system until after 8 children were dead. As of today, the official investigation remains active, but several critical questions have no public answer. First, the sequence of the 2 crime scenes. Police clarified on April 23 that the initial violence began at the West 79th Street residence, following a domestic dispute between Elkins and his wife. Yet Christina Snow was shot at Harrison Street, and her 3 children were among the dead at West 79th. How did children from Harrison Street end up among the victims on West 79th? Were they staying over? Did Elkins transport them between locations? The police timeline shows Christina's call came 12 minutes after Keosha's call from West 79th, suggesting the attacks were nearly simultaneous or that the Harrison Street shooting occurred while the West 79th shooting was already in progress. Second, the VA hospitalization. Elkins attempted suicide in February 2026. He received inpatient treatment for approximately 10 days and was released. What risk assessment was conducted before his release? Did the VA have access to his 2019 weapons conviction? Did they know about his 2023 threats to his family? These questions have not been answered publicly. Third, the officer-involved shooting. Police initially reported that officers fired and neutralized the suspect. The preliminary autopsy concluded the fatal wound was self-inflicted. Louisiana State Police are investigating. Shreveport police have said nothing suggests wrongdoing by officers, but the public does not yet know whether Elkins fired at police, whether police fired back, or whether both occurred. Fourth, the domestic violence partnership. The Shreveport City Council withdrew from the Caddo Parish Sheriff's Office partnership on March 24, 2026. The Sheriff's Office opened its own domestic violence unit on April 13, 2026. Whether this administrative transition had any bearing on the Elkins case is unknown. What is known is that no domestic violence report involving Elkins appears in Shreveport police records. Here is what the final 5 minutes of this story should reveal. On May 9, 2026, 3 weeks after the shooting, and on Mother's Day weekend, 8 white caskets were lined up at the front of Summer Grove Baptist Church in Shreveport. Large photographs of each child stood beside them. The congregation was asked to wear light pink, purple, and blue. Former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, herself a survivor of gun violence, attended. Governor Jeff Landry was there. Love One Louisiana, the foundation run by Landry and his wife Sharon, covered the funeral expenses. Forest Park West Cemetery donated the plots, vaults, and professional services, but the most revealing detail of the funeral was not who attended. It was what the governor said afterward. Jeff Landry described the shooting as systematic. His exact words, "It was from one house to the other. It wasn't a fit of rage when he snapped once. It was systematic." This is the revelation that reframes everything. A fit of rage is unpredictable. A systematic act is planned. Elkins did not snap. He moved from one house to another. He transporting children between locations or found them gathered in one place. He shot his wife, then his children, then pursued family members onto the roof. He carjacked a vehicle and led police on a 15-mile chase. He was armed and prepared when confronted. And he posted family photographs 13 days earlier as if nothing were wrong. The revelation is not that Shamar Elkins was hiding his intentions. He had stated them explicitly in 2023. He had attempted suicide in 2026. He had called his mother with dark thoughts in April. The revelation is that a man can broadcast his intentions for years, to his family, on social media, through the criminal justice system, and still wake up on a Sunday morning, load a stolen rifle, and kill 8 children before breakfast because no single system ever assembled the complete picture of who he was. The 13-year-old boy who jumped from the roof broke bones but survived. Pugh and her daughter survived by jumping. Christina survived 9 gunshot wounds. Shaneiqua Pugh survived a shot to the face. A teenager had non-life-threatening injuries. They are the living witnesses to what happened inside that house, but they are not the only witnesses. There is also the digital record, the Facebook post from Easter Sunday, the photograph of 7 children at church, the caption about a blessed day, "Happy Easter, had a wonderful, what a blessed day." Those images are time-stamped. They are archived. They will outlast every news cycle about this case. And they show something that no psychological profile can fully explain. A man who could pose with his children on Easter and execute them 13 days later, in the same clothes, in the same body, with the same hands. The house on West 79th Street still stands. The Harrison Street house still stands. Cedar Grove still stands. The Caddo Parish Sheriff's Office now has a domestic violence unit that opened 6 days too late for these 8 children. Operations for the Caddo Parish begin on April 13, 2026. Charles Ford will face federal charges for putting the weapon in circulation, but the 8 children will not testify at his trial. Ford faces up to 15 years for the false statement charge, and Shamar Elkins will never answer the question of why, not because he took that answer to his grave, but because the answer was never a secret. He told everyone. He told his wife in 2023. He told his family in February. He told his mother in April. He told Facebook in photographs. The only people who did not hear him were the ones with the power to stop him. Music. The surviving children and mothers now carry what they saw on that roof. The city of Shreveport carries what it failed to prevent. And the rest of us carry the knowledge that a man can warn the world for 3 years that he will kill his family, and the world can hear him clearly and still do nothing until the 911 call comes in at 5:55 in the morning from a woman on a roof, saying 5 words that should have been said 3 years earlier.